down in Tampa. Oh, Nikola Jokic, officially the NBA MVP. Was he deserving of the title? We will discuss. And Joel Embiid was balling last night, at least most of Joel Embiid. Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolf, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wildes. Nick, can Embiid carry the Sixers on one knee? Can he do it? Can he carry the finals to the finals on one knee?
Certainly past the Hawks, and then we'll see about the next round. Also, shout out our colleague Emmanuel Acho, most outstanding news sports personality, Sports Emmys last night. Good for Emmanuel, good for him. That's all.
Good for Emmanuel.
Just giving shout outs.
All right, we will get to, probably won't Emmanuel, but we say thank you. We will get to Joel Embiid in a second. Shall we start with a little Clippers Jazz? Game 1 last night. The answer is yes. The reason for the yes is Donovan Mitchell. Now, Donovan came into the game not feeling well. He said at halftime he felt nauseous. He felt a little lightheaded. He still went out and dropped 45 on the Clippers. 32 points in the second half alone. And then on defense, this team holding Kawhi and PG to a combined 43 points. Utah rallies for the Game 1 win. Man of the hour, Donovan Mitchell, after the win.
I let my team down in the first half on both ends of the floor. You know, I let Reggie and Luke kind of get hot. They were kicking my ass a little bit. You know, I came in the locker room. I wasn't making the right reads in the first half. So I said, you know what, guys, it's on me. You know, at the end of the day, it's on me. And, you know, I had to go out there and just set the tone. And we did our thing.
Terrible third quarter to start the half. Up, 13 or 14 in the third just started. And we just came out flat. They came out, they were playing desperation ball the whole night. And, you know, we didn't match it until late. But, you know, I think the positive out of it is, you know, we gave ourselves a chance. Regardless we gave this one up with a flat third, we still gave ourselves a chance to win this.
If you watched this game, you heard some playoff Pete chants from that crowd there in Utah. Brandon, what was your biggest takeaway from Game 1?
Yeah. Biggest takeaway was Donovan Spider Mitchell. Number 45 dropped 45. And like he said, it was the tale of two halves. He was sensational. You know, it was interesting because D. Wade was in the crowd. And he reminds me, Nick, of Dwayne Wade. He's a throwback Dwayne Wade player with a better shot. He's more consistent from the three. 100%. I mean, the way they used pick and roll last night was genius. I started playing basketball back in 1996. That was the first time I was introduced to organized basketball. And my neighbor brought me out to the yard and he said, let me see if you can make this right-hand layup, this left-hand layup. And then he took me straight up to the top of the key and he said, let's work on pick and roll. So for them to use pick and roll the way they did last night was brilliant, was genius. He got to the bucket anytime he wanted. You go back to that game, the first half, the first quarter, second quarter, even going into the third quarter, the Clippers dominated. Every time I'm watching these games, I'm looking for B. In that first half, I thought the storyline was and was going to continue to be that the Clippers was the most explosive team on the court. I thought the Clippers were the team that we talked about 2 years ago, how dominant they were. I mean, Rondo looked like he was, a young 22-year-old Rondo, the way he was getting up the court and playing defense. They looked amazing. And then all of a sudden, Spider Mitchell kicked in that second half, and it was lights out, Nick.
Yeah, so the only predictable thing that happened in this game, Brandon, or one of two predictable things I should say, is the Jazz won by 3 when I laid the 3.5. That's about how my NBA playoffs have been going, even when I'm right. Somehow I'm wrong. Like, just devastation. I'm just like, I'm watching that final possession of regulation, and I'm like, I need Marcus Morris to make this 3 so it can go to overtime so the Jazz can win by 4. But that was not to be. But here's the other predictable thing. The Jazz came out rusty and the Clippers came out hot. And then rust gave way to tired legs and rest ended up carrying the day. This was the Clippers' 8th game in 18 days. The Jazz had been off for almost a week. So it was not shocking that the Jazz came out and missed, well, it was a little shocking. They missed 20 consecutive shots. But it wasn't shocking they came out and their shot was off. And it wasn't shocking that the Clippers, feeling great about how they played in Games 6 and 7 against the Mavs, were able to carry that a bit through the first half. But then in the second half,
that's right,
in front of that sold-out, incredibly loud arena, the Jazz got going and the Clippers wore down. So there are certain times where when a team loses, I'm like, hey, they actually should feel good about it, even though it's the playoffs, especially if it's early in a playoff series. If I'm the Clippers today, Wilds, I don't feel terrible. I'm like, okay, you know what cost us this game? Games 1 and 2 against the Mavericks. Like, what cost us game 1 in the second round is that we weren't ready to play games 1 and 2 against the Mavericks, which made us play 7, and we couldn't go the distance. The other thing that cost them the game is something you called yesterday that I was not ready to go with you on, which was Donovan Mitchell played like a superstar. The Wilds, the most famous Donovan Mitchell moment from the season was Shaq kind of awkwardly on Inside the NBA. Remember, he interviewed him. He's like, hey, Donovan, I said before the show, you're not that great. What are your thoughts? And Donovan's like, I don't know. Shaq got killed for that. When I watched it, I was like, I actually agree with Shaq. I maybe wouldn't have said it. That I look at Donovan as a really good player, but not a guy who's going to do what he did last night, not a guy who's going to be able to be the best guy on a team that could make the finals. You said yesterday, Wilds, that the path for the Jazz is see if Donovan can score 50. He damn near scored 50.
Yeah, right. See, here's the funny thing about the playoffs. And the Jazz have been a very distribute the ball, you know, multiple guys in double figures. But when it comes to the playoffs are different, right? You can lean a lot on one guy. And granted, Conley was out, so I think Donovan had to, you know, carry more of the load. But here's the thing of what we're watching, the ascension of Donovan Mitchell. When we always hear the playoffs are different, not only because of the scheduling is different and everyone plays harder, but there's 3 groups of guys who their performances can kind of go into 3 categories. The first category is guys who, like, don't love the playoff pressure. And I would put, like, James Harden in there. I put Chris Middleton in there. I put Paul George in there. The other big middle group here is basically everybody else. You're kind of dealing with the pressure. Your game is pretty much the same. And then you've got guys at the top of the mountain who love the pressure, who thrive in the pressure. And of the guys still playing, that's about Kyrie hit one of the biggest shots of all time. I know you're going to say it's LeBron's game, but I'll just say they had similar points. KD, obviously, Finals MVP. Kawhi, also 2-time Finals MVP. Kawhi. And Donovan. And I know you're like, Wilds, that's like, those are like 3 superstars. You can't put Kawhi there or Donovan there. I'm like, no, you're wrong. I'm going to go a step further. Can we see the historical stats, Katanik, of how good Donovan's been playing? This is the last 40 seasons. Nick, he belongs there. This is just statistics. So I'm expecting another big series out of this guy as he's one of the greats, and we need to start talking about him like it.
Okay, so I'll meet you halfway. What I will say is this. Donovan, as a rookie, eliminated Paul George and Russell Westbrook in the first round with a 38-point performance, which showed you he was not going to be a guy that got worse in the postseason. He was going to be a guy potentially that got better in the postseason. Am I ready to put him in that group of guys like Kawhi, like KD, like LeBron, who you know are going to up their game and carry a team? I'm not ready to do that yet, and I think that's a bridge too far. However, what is true is this. There is only one player in these NBA playoffs who is undefeated. That player is Donovan Mitchell. He is 5-0 so far in these playoffs, and he was absolutely brilliant last night. And so he is moving himself towards that, and the Jazz are going to need a lot more of their legs underneath them.
And he's fun to watch, too. All right, much more on the Jazz Game 1 win still to come. We got to talk about the Joker. I mean, MVP Nikola Jokic. Here's how the big man found out he won the award yesterday. This is great. This is great. Check it out.